still legal. The Kate Daly Show starts now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Madam Secretary, for being here. That you have spent $220 million running television advertisements that feature you prominently.
Sir, the president tasked me with getting the message out to the country and to other countries where we were seeing the invasion come from, with putting commercials out that told them that if they were in this country illegally, that they needed to leave, or we would detain them and remove them, and they'd not get the chance to come back to America
All right.
the right way.
For some reason, this is glitching. I have no idea why. All right. That was Christy Nome. That was Christy Nome. And I welcome you to the Kate Daly Show. I'm not quite sure why that just happened. So it's live, so we get lots of glitches. What can I say? And I welcome you. We have a big show today for you. Peter Schweizer is here with his brand new book, The Invisible Coup: How American Elites and Foreign Powers Use Immigration as a Weapon. And so this will be a little break from Iran, unless Peter wants to comment on the happenings in Iran as well. We'll ask him. But that clip was Christy Nome, and Christy Nome has been replaced. And I would love that just happened. So I'd love to get your comments on that, Peter, and welcome to the show.
Oh, great to be with you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I think that the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, was in the middle of a series of very controversial things. Some of those related to the way Homeland Security was handling some issues. Part of that was, frankly, I think with the advertising campaign, it was really a self-promotion effort to raise her own profile. That's not really what you should be using taxpayer money for. So yeah, the ads were about deportations, but they all featured her on horseback, doing all sorts of kind of glamorous things. And I think when she essentially said that Donald Trump signed off on those, that was the end, because Donald Trump did not sign off on those.
Oh, okay. So, because she said they had a conversation, that the clip was glitching, but she said she had a conversation with him before she was made secretary and after. So do you think she's lying?
Well, I think she had a conversation about running the ads. I don't think that Trump would have approved or wanted, for a variety of reasons, for the ads to be essentially info commercials about her. They're very different than any other government ads that I've ever seen run. So that's where I think the rub is. You had the additional issues of, her top aide, Corey Lewandowski, a lot of, questions there about, were they in some kind of relationship? I have no way of knowing, but one of the committee members asked her very directly whether she was or not, and she did not answer the question repeatedly. She was under oath. So maybe that's why, but I think none of that played well with Trump, who really doesn't want the focus to be on the cabinet members themselves. He wants to be focused on the job that they're doing.
Okay. So your book, The Invisible Coup: How American Elites and Foreign Powers Use Immigration as a Weapon. This has just debuted as #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. You'll recognize Peter's books, I'm sure, because Blood Money, we have Clinton Cash, we have so many different titles from Peter that are so well known and have a lot of coverage worldwide. And so when you were writing this book, and even in the title, The Invisible Coup: How American Elites and Foreign Powers Use Immigration as a Weapon, and you spoke to the fact in the notes of this book that this has been a long time coming. You have been after this for a long time and really, really looking behind the scenes. And so, who are some of those American elites and foreign powers?
Yeah, great question. I mean, we've been having a very important, I think, debate on immigration. It's been about how immigration affects, jobs and wages, how it affects crime in the streets, that sort of thing. But I thought we were missing the larger picture, which is mass migration has become a means by which certain people are seeking political change in the United States. So that includes foreign powers like Mexico, China, the Muslim Brotherhood. It also includes domestic actors who see a political advantage to mass migration. they're not sitting around in a room deciding to do this together. This is a confluence of interests. They all see a different part of it. So, if I could, let me just read one quote, which I think sort of epitomizes the views of Mexico. And this is kind of stunning to me, but they kind of spell out how they view mass migration, which is very different than us. This is a quote from Senator Felix Salgado. He's with the ruling Morena party. He's a senior senator. He sits on the National Defense Committee, which is the most powerful committee in the Mexican Senate. Just a couple of years ago, he said, quote, "Mexicans are in our territory. California, Nevada, Texas, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, Kansas, Oklahoma, Colorado, and Wyoming. We're going to take back the territory that was stolen from us."
Wow.
Now, I read that and I thought, what's he talking about? I mean, this is ridiculous. And then I realized, and there's a dozen more in the book, lots of senior Mexican officials look at it this way. And it's not just bravado. They've actually set up political networks inside the United States that are designed maybe not to turn California into part of Mexico, but to exert some semblance of sovereignty and political control over California, to become the political kingmaker in California. And there are lots of ways in which they've done that, through their consulates, through these federal government officials from Mexico that actually live inside the United States. So they're serious about it. And China has its different methodologies. So the foreign powers are looking ways to exert control and influence in the United States. The domestic collaborators, as it were, see the political advantage to mass migration. It helps them politically. It helps their agenda. So they're willing to go along with it.
In President Trump's first term, there was a lot of talk about the wall. Whatever happened to the wall? We don't really hear about it anymore. What's going on there?
Yeah, I wish we had the wall. The wall, I think, was a physical representation of sealing the border. Now that has been done this term through the work of Customs and Border Patrol. But I still think we should have a physical barrier, because the problem is right now, if a new president comes along who, like Joe Biden, wants mass migration because it's to his political advantage, then it's very easy for Department of Homeland Security to, Customs Border Patrol to just sort of walk away from the border. So it's very challenging to build a wall. You've got private landowners, you've got government contracts, you've got a whole host of other things. But I think it's something still worthwhile trying to pursue.
Should the states do it?
The states would have a hard time being able to justify it legally because the states don't have the authority to secure federal borders. Now, certainly you want the states to cooperate. There are things they can do to make it easier. California probably not particularly interested in doing that, but I would imagine Texas and Arizona would definitely do things to make it helpful.
Back, one of the things in the Kristi Noem ads was deport yourself. That was the message.
Yeah.
The other message that was being shown. So back in the 70s, 60s, 50s, we had immigration was at an all-time low. And when people were caught, they were not detained. So they were told to voluntarily deport, or we would criminally prosecute you. And 97% left. They didn't want to be criminally prosecuted. So the shift in the 80s to hold them and have detention centers. What are your thoughts on that? I see us building a lot of detention centers, but going even back in history, I know that you're a great advocate of history. So what if that was working, why is it not working now?
It's a great question. Part of the problem is you had the development in the 1980s of the so-called sanctuary movement. That's when it started. It started within elements within the Catholic Church. And the idea was we're going to shelter people from immigration laws. We're going to prevent federal authorities from enforcing immigrant laws. We're going to provide these sanctuary settings for people. So that kind of changed the dynamic. In the 1950s or 1960s, if law enforcement said, hey, you need to self-deport, you did it because it was really, unless you were going to try to hide somewhere, literally hide somewhere, it was very hard to avoid interactions with the arrival of the sanctuary movement, there now became safe spaces. And to where we are today, you not just have sanctuary churches, you have sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, you have entities like labor unions. Some labor unions are now sanctuary labor unions. So that has created these areas where it's very hard for federal law enforcement to enforce federal law. And my view on this has always been, this is kind of a fundamental issue of the governance of the United States. If you do not like ICE, if you do not like America's immigration laws, that's perfectly fine. Then what you need to do is you need to win elections and you need to change the laws. And, then we can deal with whatever the consequences of that are. But that's not what's happened. What's happened is you have state and local authorities and other entities that are saying, we don't like this federal law, so we're just going to pretend it doesn't exist, and we're going to prevent federal authorities from enforcing it. The only other time that we have had this in American history was in the Deep South in the 1960s, when you had segregationist states like Mississippi who said, you know what, we don't want to desegregate. We're going to ignore the court orders. We're going to ignore federal law, and we're going to sort of stand in the courthouse and resist it. And that's kind of where we are today with this tension in Minneapolis or in California and federal authorities.
Those are the two only states that have really been shown to, as far as making the headlines with ICE. So that is not happening everywhere, correct? I mean,
Correct.
Okay. So,
yeah. It's generally blue states. I mean, Illinois doesn't make the headlines. They've been non-cooperative, but it does tend to break down whether you're a red state or a blue state. Red states cooperating, blue states are not.
So when we're looking at ICE, and if you have your critics of ICE, you have your supporters of ICE, what do you think about the power of ICE? The power, and maybe even expanding power. I don't know. What do you think? What are your thoughts on ICE and how it's grown?
I think ICE is a necessary function of government, and I think it has. In recent years, the controversy over they're showing up in masks, they're showing up with weapons, whereas 20 years ago they didn't show up with weapons. Part of that is because of the resistance they're facing. Federal law enforcement officers now are masking themselves because they're being doxxed, they're being outed. Activists are saying, this is John Smith, he works for ICE, this is where he lives, this is where his kids go to school. So they are have been put in a position where they have to kind of protect their identities. I believe in civil liberties. I certainly don't want those to be taken away or restricted. But if you are, in the current context, somebody who is in the country illegally and there is a warrant for your arrest, I have absolutely no problem with federal law enforcement scooping them up, expelling them from the country, and returning them to their country of origin.
Are we doing a lot more of doing that than we're seeing? Because the reason I ask that is because we've only been showcasing sort of California and Minneapolis. So are we seeing a lot of that happen right now?
We are. I live in the state of Florida. Near where I live, there was a big operation a couple of months ago where I think there were 300 or 400 people in the construction industry that were identified and were asked to leave the country and were, in effect, taken to the border to do so. So it is happening in other states. The numbers, seem high. The goal is, I think, to deport 1 million people, but what we have to understand is context here. I mean, Barack Obama, when he was president, deported more than 3 million people in his second term, close to 1 million a year. There was not the resistance. There was not the opposition. There were certain activists that didn't like that. He was nicknamed the deporter in chief, but this has been a regular function of immigration. The challenge is now with the open border policies under Joe Biden. Some estimates are we had 20 million people cross the border. So the numbers are much larger than they were during the Barack Obama years. Right.
Steady increase since the 70s for sure. I think there was like 3,000 back then. So, and so when you're talking about elections, you alluded to elections and talk a little bit more about that, because talk about election fraud versus how this impacts the election as far as people coming across the border.
Great question. It impacts it on a couple of levels. The first is, you want to have immigrants become citizens. Those citizens are going to be able to vote. The problem is, as I lay out in the book, every Democratic president since Bill Clinton, when they've come into office, has essentially abandoned the rules about new citizenship. You're supposed to undergo a criminal background check. They ignore those by the hundreds of thousands. You're supposed to be able to pass an English literacy test. They've ignored that. You're supposed to pass a basic civics test. They've ignored all that. Why did they abandon those? Because they discovered in the 1990s that newly minted citizens vote roughly 85% for Democrats. Now that evens out over time, but for the first 20 years in that first generation, heavily going to vote for Democrats. And that's why you saw them get rid of these requirements. And the biggest years that we've had for minting new U.S. citizens was 1996, 2012, and 2024, which were all re-election years for Democrats. So that's the immediate goal of getting people citizenship, getting them to vote in mass numbers. But even if migrants are here and they don't vote, there's still huge political benefits for Democrats in this space. And that's because of the way political power is apportioned in our country. We do a census every 10 years. Census counts people. It does not count citizens. So if you're counting people for the census in California, you are counting citizens, you're counting permanent residents, you're counting illegals, you're counting anybody in the state. And what that means in practical terms is that a state like California is believed to have between 4 and 7 more congressional districts or more members of Congress than they would otherwise if illegals were not counted. And to just put that into perspective, take that low number, 4 congressional seats. That means that illegals in California have a larger congressional delegation than that of 13 states in the United States. So it's a huge political advantage. Not to the same extent, but the same thing applies in Illinois. It also applies in Minnesota. So there's a political advantage. And I think this is one of the reasons you're seeing a lot of Democrat office holders resisting any deportations, whether it's of criminals or non-criminals, because of the political gains that they get from having illegals in their states and in their districts.
Okay. How does China's exploitation of our U.S. citizen laws? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, China really has a sophisticated form of weaponizing immigration, and it's through this issue of birthright citizenship. Birthright citizenship, of course, is the idea that the 14th Amendment says if your mother happens to be in the United States and you're born here, you will be a U.S. citizen. And I never really thought about this until I looked at China's industrial scale exploitation of this law. And what you need to know is that there's an industry in China. There's more than 1,000 companies. It's called birth tourism. Okay. And Chinese elites pay these firms. They fly their wife or their girlfriend to the United States. They give birth here. They arrange all the medical procedures. The child gets the birth certificate. And then when the child is old enough, a week or two old, they fly back to China where they're going to be raised, within the confines of the Chinese Communist Party. But they're U.S. citizens based on birthright citizenship. Right. And when they turn 18, they were born, they were born here, but they were raised in China. They're going to be able to vote in our elections. And then it becomes a question of scale. So how often is this taking place? Our federal government has no idea because we don't keep any statistics on this. The birth certificates that people get does not list the nationality of the parents. So you look at what China says, the Chinese government and Chinese research firms, and the numbers are eye-popping. Their estimates are that over the past 13 years, each and every year, roughly 100,000 Chinese babies have been born in the United States or on U.S. territories like Saipan, which means right now there are more than 1 million quote unquote U.S. citizens, I'm going to put that in air quote, that have been raised in communist China that are getting ready to vote over the course of the next 5 to 10 years. And let's just remember an election like 2016, that was settled by 72,000 votes. So you can see the threat that their weaponized immigration poses to our election system.
Interesting. So what about the NGOs? Could you give us a peek into this, into the NGOs that you've discovered?
Yeah, I mean, the NGOs play an important role here. Some of them are religious based, like Lutheran services or Catholic charities. Some of them are not religiously affiliated. They're just interested in refugee issues. And what I find interesting is when you look through their reports and you look through their mission statements, you realize that one of the goals that they see with mass migration is to, quote, transform the United States. And they talk about how when mass migration takes place, people come to the receiving country. It is transformational to the receiving country. It changes the receiving country. This, in their mind, is a good thing. Because these entities, by and large, are on the progressive side of the political equation, which is certainly fine. But they very clearly see this as moving the United States in a more progressive direction. And a lot of the social science research, the polling, the academic studies that look at the political attitudes and views of people that have come to the United States, particularly from the developing world, they are much more collectivist in their mindset, less individualistic. They're much more desirous of a caretaker government that's going to care for them than they are of a free market economic system. They are much less interested in the notion that America is a unique country and a unique society with a unique political tradition. So this all favors them. And so they see this immigration not just through the lens of humanitarian, we're helping individuals. They see it through the lens of transforming America in the direction they want to take it. And I quote them saying that in the book.
Wow. You know, over the last, say, 30 years, we've seen our right and the left go at it over immigration, over the wall, over the border. And I haven't felt like either side is doing a whole lot. What is your take on that?
I think that's true. I think there's been a lot of fighting and feuding, a lot of heat and very little action. Part of that is the Republican Party and Democratic Party have both been divided in different ways on this issue. Republican Party, you've got sort of the Chamber of Commerce wing of the Republican Party, much more in favor of increased immigration. It keeps labor costs down, for example. But within the Democratic Party, at least it used to be, the progressive wing really didn't want mass migration either. They were very closely aligned with the labor unions, and labor unions want high wages for their members, and immigration kind of subverts that. But that has shifted and changed to a large extent. So to me, the way that we need to look at this issue is to first realize that there are problems with how immigration is being weaponized. Mexico, China, the Muslim Brotherhood, they see this as an opportunity to undermine and subvert the United States, to do us harm and to change us. So we should be taking steps, and in the last chapter of my book, I lay down some of the policy suggestions there. We should be doing it. Once we deal with weaponized immigration, I think we can have a very good and healthy conversation about the level of legal immigration that we want. I happen to like legal immigration. My parents immigrated from Europe. I'm a first generation American. I think it's good for America. But in a context with mass illegal migration and weaponized immigration, you really can't have a conversation about that.
Are we the only country with this big of an issue when it comes to this kind of loose border that we've had?
To some extent, that's a great question. To some extent, yes, because we are the biggest magnet that is drawing the most people. If you give most people in the developing world an opportunity to come to the United States or come to Europe, they're going to choose the United States, I would argue, 8 out of 10 times. It is just a more desirous, dynamic, a lot more opportunity here, and a lot more wide open spaces, as it were, to develop and grow. But so that makes us, I think, unique in that sense. But lots of countries are dealing with this. Europe has a huge problem with mass migration. My mother's from Sweden. Sweden used to be very welcoming to refugees and migrants. They're now literally paying them, in some cases, $50,000 to go back home to the developing world. You offer somebody from Somalia that's living in Sweden $50,000 to go back to Somalia, they might very well take it. So it's a problem that a lot of the Western world is dealing with, but I would say for the United States, it's a particular problem because how attractive it is to live here.
The book is, I'm visiting with Peter Schweizer. The book is The Invisible Coup, How American Elites and Foreign Powers Use Immigration as a Weapon. It's already #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list. And final question for you, Peter. How are the elites, the deep state, are you identifying people within the deep state, within the elites that are sort of the ringleaders of making sure that we get this influx?
Oh, absolutely. So the cover of the book features President Xi of China, President Sheinbaum of Mexico, but it also features AOC, who figures large in this in terms of her worldview and the progressive movements. Bernie Sanders figures into this. Again, I spell that out in the book. The cover also includes Barack Obama and Joe Biden, because they are the ones that sort of took this to the ultimate level. Barack Obama made it highly efficient and easy for the Chinese to engage in birth tourism in the United States. I mean, he did them a huge favor, and the question is why? And I have some ideas on that. And Joe Biden, of course, by opening up the floodgates in 2021, I think that was a gambit to fundamentally shift the political balance in the United States permanently in the favor of the Democrats. That did not succeed, but I think that was the effort. So yeah, there are plenty of people named in the book and plenty of people in Washington who are not particularly happy with me.
Okay. Thank you so much, Peter, for joining me. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Grab the book. And of course, there's so much to understand about this issue. And Peter's been on the show before. I've had a lot of guests on the show, over 300 guests a year. And, this is, it's interesting that the press is saying that Kristi Noem's ads are the big catalyst. But I do have to say that Kristi Noem's ads also said, deport yourself, which is going back to that 1970s that we talked about on the show, I think last week or the week before, where it is about deporting yourself and not holding them and building all of these detention centers and then bringing them through our legal system. And so I find that kind of captivating because interesting. Does the deep state not want her telling people just to deport themselves? I don't know. It's very interesting. But remember, about 2 weeks ago, we said, "Oh, Kristi Noem's gone. Like she's gone for whatever reason. They're going to interject. She's going to be history here." So, and that is exactly what just happened. So I think that happened today, didn't it? And so Senator Mark Wayne Mullen is in her place, this will get kind of interesting to see what they do. I do think that both sides haven't done much, and I think that's coordinated by the deep state. I don't think either side wants to. I don't think either side, actually, the right or the left in Congress, in the Senate, actually really ever wanted to do anything about this. And this is why they kind of do a tennis ball back and forth over the net on this issue, is because it's always blamed on each other. And then, of course, nothing ever actually happens. You guys have noticed that, I'm sure. It's just nothing's going on. Nothing's going on. So interesting. So if you want to comment on this, it's fine. The New American did a couple of pieces. Number one, the CIA-backed Kurds are being prepped to invade Iran. And also, I'll take a caller. Sure. Go ahead. And of course, it's 435-680-2503. And I'm one of the only shows that actually takes live callers now. So you can go ahead and call up. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, I want to talk about this decision to fire her. But just on Peter, so much of what he said was just untrue. Of course, the states can build walls. He's working for the conspiracy. But let me get back to Kristi. So she's been just moved to a new position. And that new position is perhaps more important than the Homeland Security. The position that Trump appointed her to is special envoy to the Shield of Americas. The Shield of America is almost certainly going to be modeled after the EU. Yes. It's a merging of all the countries of the Western Hemisphere into a single regional government. Yep. They tried this in the 1990s and during the Clinton administration. It was called the Free Trade Areas of America.
Mm-hmm.
Main organization that stopped this was the John Birch Society. We worked so extremely hard with all sorts of materials, videos, yard signs, and everything. Sure. But it's treason, so we were able to expose it enough. And now they're coming back with it. So, Trump says he wants to make America great again. That was also a slogan.
Well, America's, Mark. America's great again. They're expanding.
Well, it's to America. Yeah, it's to make America. Yeah, to make a regional government. And remember, they made it very clear, the conspiracy for a century, over a century, the goal is to have a one world totalitarian government. The regional governments that you've been talking about in recent months a lot, I appreciate a great deal that you're doing that, is a stepping stone to a one world government that the conspiracy has said they want, a totalitarian one world government. So this is a way of actually abolishing America and not making it great. And this is what, and Trump's a point man, but there's going to be one in all the countries, and they'll be merging, and they'll be having meetings. And apparently he's going to talk about this on Saturday. Yeah. So this is abolishing America, not making it great again.
Oh, I'm with you on this. And also there's a meeting scheduled, right, with a dozen Latin American leaders in Florida. That's coming up. Thank you for the call. And the Shield of the Americas. Why are we not just calling it America? I think it's all in the name. And he's right. He's right. This is so not good for us. Okay. And it's being portrayed as we're just meeting with foreign leaders, right? To get the influx controlled, but it's not really that. It's all about regions. I wish people would understand that. I think one of the biggest things that we're not getting right now is how much that is happening to us. And I think there's a lot of people that really like Trump. So I don't actually have anything against Trump because I know it's not about Trump. Trump is, I think, taking orders. And the orders are make a big show about peace equaling strength. That was a meme that they sent out of the White House today. And it was peace equals strength. Okay. There's nothing peaceful about what's going on right now. So that's not a thing. There's nothing peaceful about what's going on right now. And it's peace through strength. So demand that we have Greenland, demand that we have all of these countries demand it so that it looks as though it's strength. And so I do have an issue with that. Hi, caller. Welcome to the show. Go right ahead.
Hi, Kate. It's Vince Agnelli. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you? Go right ahead.
Well, you asked him the question about what can the states do, and that's my big deal. That's what I put in my book. But
and can you give the title of your book?
The Public Weal and You. And wheel meaning the public body politic, and what a great year! 250 years ago, this was a big deal.
Right.
Where George Mason and Patrick Henry really kind of crafted together the words that Thomas Jefferson used in the making of the Declaration of Independence.
Right.
So the people can reach back and abolish or replace or change whatever they want to do with the government. Those are our rights. Sadly, in the U.S. Constitution, they didn't put those words in there. Now, see, the Virginia Constitution has that.
Right.
And, I know I've told you before, I go around the state trying to get people to have meetings face to face. We almost did it 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So if you want to fix these problems with the federal government, you need to show the effort that you're willing to take back your local and state government and tell them we're just going to pull back our people. If you don't listen to us, because you don't have any connection to the Constitution now between the parties. The parties lay out between you and the Constitution.
Yeah.
I hear many talk show people talking about, well, they vote for the same people 96% of the time, but the parties are the ones who pick the people you vote for.
Exactly.
That's the big con. And we also say, I've been having the heart issues.
Yeah.
And I've been using the cardio miracle, and
it's amazing, huh?
Well, I've kind of figured out that I suffer from an electrolytic problem.
Okay.
Now, I've been dealing with this for 20 years, and for some reason recently, it's been really, really bad.
Wow.
I attribute that to the electronic warfare that's going on around the planet.
Could be.
That's just my position.
Yeah.
But
the cardio is helping you, and I love that because it's helping me. I love this product. I've been taking it since September. I absolutely love it.
It is.
Yeah.
It's been a wonderful help, and I do want to thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. Anyway,
thank you. Really appreciate you. Thank you.
Right.
Great call. I don't think the border is. This is so controversial to say, I know, but I don't think the border issue has a lot to do with our elections. And I know that it's a talking point out there, but if you were to ask me personally, I do not believe that, actually. I think our elections are completely 100% fixed, all the way down to local races, because it's in the software. And the software covers all the races down to local. So I don't think that the border issue, I think they've made it the issue in the press and in the government to be talked about endlessly, but I don't think it actually has much to do with anything. What I do think is that, again, controversial, Kate, right? It's a cover, because then what they can do is, well, let me put it this way. If you recognize that most of the nation, okay, a majority in the nation is conservative, and the minority actually is leftist liberal, okay? So how can the races always be so tight and close? It's never made sense, right? You can have this really tight race and you're going, but wait a minute. Most of the voters are going to vote conservative, okay? So I think it's pretty interesting that we use the border issue as cover for the election process. Because what do we always say? Even Peter said it. Oh, well, the influx will change the election. The influx will change the election. The problem with that statement is it isn't, because if the voting is fixed and the software can be tallied, right, the way they want it to be tallied and favor the candidate that they've chosen, then how many people voting from coming across the border isn't going to matter. So I think it's cover for that. I think it's cover to make the elections look real. And then on the flip side of that, I just think it's a talking point that is offered because honestly, how many talking points can you come up with around the border? We should never be letting people into our country illegally. We should never let them stay illegally. So if that's true, which it is, okay, even Japan, I mean, my gosh, all these countries with their immigration, they don't allow hardly anybody in, okay? Israel too, okay? If you're not Jewish, good luck trying to get in. So you can understand that we have this huge problem, and instead of maybe even really diagnosing the issue, like that's why I offered up, back in the 70s, we used to just say, deport yourself. That's actually what Kristi Noem's ads were saying, deport yourself. But maybe that's not the message that the deep state wants sent. Because if we keep this problem alive and well, then that means that they can continue to use it as cover for election fraud, massive election fraud. But also, so you're not going to ever get rid of this issue, right? And so we are going to build detention centers up the wahoo. We're going to keep building them and building them and building them. We're going to keep holding everybody. And we're going to keep having reasons and excuses why we have to do that and extend the legal system to them. We don't have to. They're not citizens. They don't have a right to our legal system. They're not a citizen of this country. We can criminally prosecute them, but that should be their only choice, should it not? All I'm saying is that we're not really looking at all the issues. We're not really understanding all the issues. And I think that once you go to what is election fraud and how does it impact us and what's actually happening with that the deep state would like to keep kind of under the covers, then I think you can have an honest conversation about the border, because the border is tied in directly to that, right? In issue when they're discussing these issues. Now, caller Mark was right about the Americas. So Kristi Noem's new position is about the Americas. If you notice through the last year, the constant hyphening of US/Israel and the Americas. It's Canada and America and Mexico. It's Greenland, Canada, America, Mexico. It's America and all the Latin American countries. This is region speak. It's region talk. They're turning us into a region, whether anyone likes it or not. It's been in the works since the 1940s, well before that, but really on paper in the 1940s. And this is, it really came out of Bretton Woods, actually, was the regional perspective of how we need to just be groups of countries. But what does that do? It doesn't extend our constitution to the other countries. It just minimizes our constitution here in this country. And that's really something that people just do not want to hear about, sadly. And I don't know how else to say it, but it's been going on pretty at a pretty high rate since Trump was put in. And everyone that likes Trump or is on our conservative side, I'm very conservative, is on our conservative side is cheering it. I don't think they realize what they're cheering. I don't think they understand what they're actually cheering. We have a huge problem in understanding and ignorance right now. And how do you take a country and build 15-minute cities and do all of these things? You do it out in the open, right? And no one even notices it. That's the scary thing. So I don't know. It's just very, very, very strange what's happening there. So I do think that there's a lot of reasons they do it, and there's a lot of reasons for why they're going in that direction with the border issues, instead of just either criminally prosecuting people, right, if they stay, or just doing the voluntary deport, like get yourself out of this country now and come back legally. I think a lot of problems could be solved if we went back to the 1970s motto of, hey, just leave, because we were dealing with about 3,000 then. And now how many are we dealing with? But honestly, at the heart of it is why they're actually building those detention centers, because I don't think they're all for illegals. You catch my drift, right? Yeah, I think they're going to be pointed towards us at some point. And then we're going to look back at all these buildings and look back and go, why didn't we stop this? You know, it was all under the guise of housing these illegals to get their proper legal care. And I don't really think that's what it's for. And that's why I think they're building them at such a high rate, to tell you the truth. The troops were reporting, this was by Veronica Krylenko. She was talking about the troops reporting biblical end times rhetoric in Iran war briefings. So this is kind of crazy. And what she said was, for decades, one of the key justifications for U.S. hostility toward Iran has been the claim that the country is ruled by unhinged religious fanatics. But now some of our U.S. troops say their own commanders are invoking the Book of Revelation as justification for war in the Middle East. Part of God's divine plan, and pushing them into because a lot of the troops are going, we don't want to go. We don't want to do this. There are a lot of troops saying that, but there are a lot of troops that are gung-ho, right? They want to. But this is kind of interesting that they've resorted to this, because you don't usually hear this in the military, do you? Is this kind of new? So this is what one soldier said. He urged us, his commander, to tell our troops that this was all part of God's divine plan. Specifically referenced numerous citations out of the Book of Revelation, referring to Armageddon and the imminent return of Jesus Christ. Interesting. One thing I will mention that I did think was a little strange, to be honest with you, was the constant talk with Israel about the return of the Messiah, but never naming Jesus Christ as the Messiah. Do you think that's a little odd? Yeah. I thought that was odd. So Um, also in Iran, as I alluded to before, the CIA is working to get Iranian Kurdish military forces into Iran to help the U.S. government overthrow the Islamic regime. Now, I do want to say this too. This is what happened in Iraq. And when I had the gal that was a Christian that lived in northern Iraq, she talked about the Kurds and she said, you know, the Kurds were the bad guys. The Kurds were the ones that were just moving in where a country would say, you can't move in. It'd be like Mexico taking Texas. And we're like, yeah, you can't do that. So when she came on the show, and this was years ago, she goes, there's something really strange about the Kurdish forces and how much the CIA is involved with these Kurdish forces. And those were the bad guys. And we knew who the bad guys were. But she said, your media, your government, your press talks about the Kurdish troops as if they're going to, basically save them, right? They were the ones going in to get Saddam. And she said that wasn't actually true. She said it was true, but not. She said because that was a backing by the CIA. I thought that was kind of crazy. So I just wanted to share that with you because this is the boots on the ground. You kind of have to wonder about the boots on the ground and who's controlling that. And I've said from the beginning that this is a controlled CIA op, everything that's happened with this. And so it's being explained away. And again, I will say this again. Do I want to live in Iran? No. But I will say this. We got Khomeini in there, the CIA did, knowing that Khomeini would do what he was about to do with the people and knowing that he was going to create this ultra insane ruling over the people. So tyrannical ruling over the people. So we placed him there to do that. And then that was used as a catalyst, right? And that's why I played those clips yesterday and the day before is all those clips from the 1970s on to today, talking about that and talking about the fact that you had always, Iran's this close to getting a nuke. Iran's this close to getting a nuke. Iran's this close to getting a nuke. Because you have to present a bad guy authentically, right? Even though you controlled it and manipulated it to be there, you have to present that in order to play good cop, bad cop. So, yeah. So, and LB says, as I remember, this is a comment on YouTube, in 79, he was making the media rounds in the UK before he even got the go ahead. And the Kurds are communists last time I looked. Yeah. So when we're told things about foreign press in our media, I would never rush to believe them ever. I would never believe anything our media says. I don't. So I always go the opposite. So if you really want to understand the truth. Okay, caller, go right ahead.
Hi, Kate.
Hi there.
Really interesting observation a couple days ago. Marco Rubio, excuse me, I think spilled the beans on our relationship with Israel and how we are working for Israel, basically. He stood in front of the microphone in front of a group of journalists. He was asked, why did Trump do this in Iran? And he said, well, we've known that, we being America, we've known that if any country strikes Iran, Iran will immediately retaliate and strike America. Then he said in the very next sentence, and we knew that Israel was just about ready to strike Iran. So we went in to take out their capability of harming us. So I interpret that as we're working for Israel. Yes. Trump did this as he was instructed to do by Netanyahu.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I mean, it was clearly stated by Marco Rubio. So
you're right.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Yeah.
Unfortunate.
You're right on the money. You're right on the money.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Kate. Great show. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, it's a big theater. It's a big theater. And I do think it's all cover, right? So good cop, bad cop. We'll continue on. And if you're conservative and you've just been sort of rah, let's go, whatever we do is great. I think that you should probably think about that stance a little bit. Okay, caller, go right ahead.
Kate the Great.
Hey, how are you?
This is Mike.
Hi, Mike.
I'm going to go against all sane thoughts and quote some Bible verses. But I'm going to break this down real quick if I can. I'll try to do it under a minute. The verse that a lot of the dispensationalists, I grew up Southern Baptist, so I was totally indoctrinated. I had the whole Schofield Bible growing up, the whole thing. And the verse that they're talking about that they, hang their hat on, it's Genesis 12:3. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who curses you. And in you, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. And this was God talking to Abram. Okay.
Right.
Key point. He was talking to Abram before Abram was Abraham and thus had children. Okay. So then you jump forward into Genesis 16:11, when, we know the story where Sarah, Abraham's wife, was not able to have children. They got impatient. She basically said, take my handmaid and have a child with her. And so he did. And that child's name was Ishmael, who is known as the father or the forefather of the Arab people, right? So right there, you've got a problem. If back a few chapters in Genesis, when God said, I'm going to bless everyone that is your seed, does that mean only the Jewish people, which came from Isaac, or does that also include the Arab people? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that tells you right there, there's a problem with what they're forming their argument on. And this whole, now that they've injected religion into this whole situation, okay? But let me jump forward one more time. Now let's jump to the New Testament, where Paul, apostle, he was a Pharisee, he was a Roman citizen, he was one of the PhD minds of his time, right? He wrote much of the New Testament, which, side note, kind of attached to what you were talking about, what these sinners and whatever might be.
Right.
The Noahide laws are what are in play. It's like Noah, IDE, Noahide laws, and just research that for anybody that hasn't researched it. I've been doing a study on this for the past few months.
Okay.
It's blown my mind. Okay. So anyway, and I've got, but so now here it is, Galatians 3:16, Paul speaking, now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. Okay, that's cool, right?
Okay, sure.
He does not say, and to seeds as of many, but as of one, and to your seed, capital S seed, who is Christ.
Ooh.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
That's the attachment way back from Genesis 12:3. God was already saying, look, I know Adam and Eve messed up. There's going to be a Messiah that comes through your seed. And then Paul in Galatians nails it down right there. Okay. There's no wiggle room in that verse. Okay.
Yeah.
To that seed, capital S, who is Christ. Okay. We as the church, and I'm not going to get into all the other little rabbit trails we can go into, but if I can I have 20 more seconds?
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay.
You're good.
Now, I personally believe that at some point in the future, the New Testament, I'm not going to talk about other books, but the New Testament is going to be basically outlawed, or at least heavily redacted or edited. And let me make, So, and I've been on a study on this in the past few months. I've been like, man, what's the deal? Because the Jews, and then there's then, and there's the Zionists, and I'm just trying to, and I'm like, God, can you please figure this out? And so it's one of those things where, and then you open your Bible and you read something and you're like, what?
Yeah. Interesting.
Has that been here this whole time? And here it is. It's John 8:44. It's Jesus, and he's talking to, and it doesn't say the Pharisees. He's talking to the Jews, and I'm saying the J word. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He's going back and forth with them. Okay. And they're saying, oh, we're God, Abraham's our father, and then I'm just giving you the core verse because I want people to go back and research verses before this.
Okay.
And even after. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is our little homework. Okay.
Okay.
John 8:44.
Mm-hmm.
He said, this is and I'm pointing this out because it's a verse that the current powers that be will take this verse and go, you're not going to read that. Okay. And here it is. You are of your father, the devil, and the desires of your father you want to do. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth because there is no truth in him. When he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own resources, for he's a liar and the father of it. And it goes on a few more verses, and they get mad at him and they try to kill him right then and there. But Jesus does something, he gets away from them. Okay. So I don't need to break all that down, but you have Jesus Christ, the Messiah, saying this to these people, and I'm going to leave that there. But that, if you want to really start a firestorm, just throw that person.
Thanks, Mike from Texas.
Not that I did. I mean, you could edit it out, right?
No, I won't. Yeah. I won't edit anything out because I'm not going to be a talk show talking point. That all the talk show hosts on the right and the left, I mean, most all of them are so controlled, and I'm not going to be that. So I welcome any kind of thought. I welcome all kinds of truth coming at us. Why wouldn't I? So I appreciate that. Well, that's interesting. Interesting insight.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Well, just my comment, you're raised away and you're taught, oh yeah, my pastor says, we bless them. Mm-hmm. But then when you go in and dig on your own and you allow the Holy Spirit to lead you, you're like, wait a second. This does not add up.
Well, it goes to that scripture, you say you are mine, but your hearts are far from me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not coming down on these people as an individual. I'm just saying that
you're
don't come at us.
Yeah. You're probably talking about the Christians that are in the camp of they are everything. It's like a worshiping, and it's a worshiping of whatever Israel does. They're totally right and only defending themselves. And it's like a blank. It's just like a blank check. Like they can do anything and it's not questioned. And that does always shock me that we don't question what's happening with governments and what they do with that power from past scriptural let's say translation of what people think it says, right? So it all leads to that. And that's why I think people should step back and really think about what's going on right now. Yeah.
I agree. And if I can leave one thing real quick,
sure.
And hopefully this will generate some conversation because I would just say, anyone listening, be a Berean. Don't believe one word I just said. Go in and study for yourself and call Kate for any kind of comments you need to make.
There you go. Thank you. Appreciate the call. Thanks, Mike from Texas. I know that you listening out there and you watching, I know you just want truth wherever that truth is. And even if it could go against something that you've thought your whole life or whatever, I understand. Look, out of everything that I think is fakery and theater and everything else, God's the only thing that's real. And I'm telling you, I have a bigger testimony of God than I ever have after studying government for over 38,000 hours. That's the truth. And I always look at how we have sort of adopted ideas, adopted things that we tend to gravitate toward because now the majority gravitates towards those things, right? And so if I say anything against what the majority is saying out there, then I'm somehow the bad guy. I'm somehow the wicked person. And it's like, no, I'm just trying to really think about and be very open to understanding what's really going on in the Middle East right now and what's really happening in our country right now to us. That's really the big deal, is what's happening to us. So the regions that are being formed, the smart cities that are being made, all of those things, and really looking and saying, okay, who's the aggressor and who's not the aggressor? And looking back in history and saying who has a pattern of being the aggressor and who doesn't. I mean, those are all valid questions to ask. And as conservatives, we should be asking them all the time and not just going with what the majority thinks. I think that's easy to do, but LB had a good point. You know, in Nazi Germany, they took all the Bibles out and replaced them with Mein Kampf. So are the same people running the show that are the Nazi types, you know, the deep state, the same ones that created Hitler, same ones that wanted Hitler to take the fall and wanted Hitler to be that guy, right? So they do this all the time. They'll take a person, even like Saddam, and they'll partner with them, and then they'll put them back in they'll put them in their country, and then we demonize and go in. And it's kind of interesting how that all works. But look, the same script that's been going on forever and ever and ever, okay, with our CIA. I can't say forever, 70 years worth of CIA. As you go back and you start to really look at the scripts, they're all the same. Okay, we were told the exact same things about Iraq. We were told the exact same things about so many different countries, as we said yesterday. So I always keep that in mind, because history is a great teller of what's happening right now. And they don't shift a lot from their scripts. They really don't. I don't see a whole lot of shifting. I see them using the same things because why? Because they work. That's why. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you use the same script? So I think a good healthy dose of thinking skills would be good. We're not really freeing anybody. What's happening is more about territory. It's power and control. And it has really not much to, and deals, like I said yesterday with the Saudi Arabia deals and the arms sales and everything else. It has way more to do with that. And the presidency is controlled. Whether we like it or not, I think that is the reality. I think that is the truth. The presidency has been controlled and will be controlled, and has been for over 100 years. And I don't think you can deny that if you truly look at what has been happening with our government for the last 100 years. The trajectory of our government has only gone one way. So there you go. Yeah. And they're in their little secret societies, the ones that are actually behind. So when Peter was naming, you know, Barack and all these people, those aren't the people, I think, running the show. The people running the show are the people behind Barack. Barack's the puppet. All the presidents have been the puppet to how the deep state, the directive of the deep state, and what they tell them to do. It's kind of like when Hillary said, Hillary, every time I hear her name, I just, Hillary said, she's just so nasty. Anyway, Hillary said, I take my orders from the mothership. Okay. She was talking about the CFR, but even deeper than the CFR. Okay. CFR is like it's like a group that does what they're told, but I think it extends even beyond that. But I just want us to be very aware of all of that happening, and don't get sucked into the media narratives, because they're so easy. They're so easy to get sucked into right now, which is such a bummer for everybody, because it's easier to go along with the masses, and it's easier to get emotional over this than it is to actually look at the truth. So maybe we should have a good come to Jesus moment, you know, where we actually really dissect the truth and pray about that, and try to understand what's really going on and how people are being used. People are being used. We're being used right now too. I don't think we actually really wanted to do this. And it isn't because Iran, you know, I know people go, Iran deserved it because of how tyrannical they are. Nobody wants to see, you know, tyrannical people controlling other people. We don't want to see it. No one wants to see that. Everyone wants to see a free people around the world, right? Okay. But it's being used, is my point. It's being used as part of an agenda, and it's being used as far as getting us to do these things that we probably wouldn't be doing. But the U.S.-Israel showing up on all the AP and the Reuters. The AP and Reuters are the two sources of news. And as that continuously shows up, they're showing us a united front for a reason. But I think it's for a fall that's coming. I really do. I think that it's a demonization that's coming. Okay. by pinning us together in the press without even an explanation. It's just very weird. Kind of like Kristi Noem getting that position over the Americas instead of America. Okay. Very strange. And do I expect a false flag coming? Yes, I do. Because they're going to have to up the ante on retaliation because it's going to look more real. The theater is going to look more real. If the CIA can do things on our soil and blame Iran, I don't think Iran has the reach you do, that people do. I don't think they have sleeper cells here. I think the sleeper cells are the CIA. And I think they're going to do some things and blame them on Iran to get us square in the middle, even more than we are, into this fight so that we are emotional about it. It's truly what I believe. I really believe that. And after all the research I've done, I can't express that enough. It's the false flag. The false flag will be our CIA doing something here and blaming it. You know, they've said sleeper cells for 40 years. Okay. CIA knows what you eat for breakfast. They know if a sleeper cell is here. Okay. The only reason you would have a sleeper cell here is if the CIA wanted it here. And I do believe that the CIA would create acts of violence against its own Americans because it's done it before many times. And I do think that would get us emotional into a big false flag, would get us very emotionally into what's going on over there so that we don't think about what's happening. And we're just, oh my gosh, they did this to us. Go after them, annihilate them, go get them. Yeah, that's coming. That is definitely coming. Go get some cardiomiracle.com/Kate. I drink it every day. Absolutely love it. It's all the nutrients, vitamin C, huge amounts of vitamin C, 20 times the fruits and vegetables of any product that you are probably currently taking, because I can't believe this product is that amazing. It is, though. And I do 2 doses a day. Also, I just wanted to say that Formula IQ, formulaiq.com is where I get my supplements. And they have some fantastic new ones that just came out that you might want to check out. You also get a discount by using the code Kate. Go to mypillow.com. My Pillow also has an amazing assortment right now on sale right now. You might want to check that out because new bedding, a mattress topper, even their mattresses are pretty nice. So I've been really impressed with their bedding, everything that they've got. So you're going to want to take advantage of that because you can get it for cheap right now. Love that. Anyway, thanks you guys. I really appreciate you calling in and appreciate your thoughts. And thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Be faithful, be fearless. Find out why I say that. Go to katedalleyradio.com. Donate to the show. I need it right now. You can't even imagine how tough it is right now. So donate to the show. There's all kinds of ways to do it. PayPal, Kate at katedalleyradio.com, of course. But you can also send money too to the P.O. box. But I really encourage you to do that because we really desperately need it right now. And really appreciate you guys. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in.